All right, in this tutorial, we're going to be talking about the difference between the major and the minor pentatonic scale. And while we do that, we're going to make it fun by learning these three riffs. It's really just three riffs, but we're going to end each riff just a little bit differently. And we're going to talk about how that can change whether we're playing with the minor pentatonic or the major pentatonic. And we're going to be talking about context and phrasing. Context meaning what are we playing over, what chords are the band playing, and phrasing meaning, can we adjust what we're playing just a little bit to be a little bit more appropriate to the chord, and does that change which scale we're using? Okay, so we've had a lot of discussion about the major and the minor pentatonic, and especially the numbering systems there, and we want to drill down at the end of this tutorial a little bit on, is this position 1 of C pentatonic, or is this position 1 of A minor pentatonic? And both of those statements are correct, and we're going to talk about why and if it's important and all that kind of stuff, but we're going to save that to after we learn the riffs. Okay, so let's get our fingers on this first one. Here's how it looks. All right, so clearly we're in this box shape. All of these riffs are going to fit neatly into one of the pentatonic box shapes, okay? And we're going to talk about the numbering again later. So let's not worry about that for right now. But we all know, if you know your pentatonic scales, this box shape, and we're going to start with this. All right, so we've got the 5th fret to the 7th fret on D. It's a quick slide. Then I'm going to cluck with my middle finger here. I'm just going to pop it a little bit, this 5th fret of G, and I'm going to go back and forth. All right? Then we're going to do this. So we're going up to 7 on G, down to 5, and then a bend. Pinky's there on the 8th fret of B, which I'm going to cluck. Then come back down. Quick, pull off to 5, 7 of the D string. And then to end it, this first time, 5 to 7 on the D string. Real quick like that. Okay, 2, 3, go. One more time, slower. 1, 2, 3, go. All right, that was over an A minor chord in the video that you just saw. So is that major or minor pentatonic? Minor pentatonic, but why? Because the next one we're going to play, that's over a C chord, and I think you could call that major pentatonic. And the point of this is that we're playing the exact same notes, right? Except for that very last one. That's where the phrasing comes in, but we're playing the same notes. C major pentatonic is this. A minor pentatonic is this. They're the exact same notes. The reason that works is because C major, the key of C major, the relative minor is A minor. And what that means is they share the same notes, they share the same chords. However, the order that the band is playing these chords in, if they're starting with an A minor and using a lot of minor chords in that key, it's going to feel minor, and you're going to want to play a minor pentatonic. So how do we do that if it's all the same notes? Well, you do that with your phrasing. We can start on A's and we can end on A's and other notes that help us give it this minor feel. But the position thing is what number position is this, and is this an A minor pentatonic or is this a C major pentatonic? That's all really guitar speak, because what makes it a minor pentatonic is simply the notes that are being played. That's A minor pentatonic. And you can play it anywhere you can find those notes on this neck, and that's always going to be A minor pentatonic. And it's that because of how it sounds, right? And how it sounds a little bit different if we're playing that over and over than if we're playing C major pentatonic. You hear people, it's oversimplifying it, but it's kind of true. That sounds happier, right? Then that sounds more sad. Again, that's oversimplifying it, but hopefully that's starting to make some sense. So all we're doing to change the riff here, the second time through, is we're ending on this C note. The band's playing a C chord at that point. So we can, just by simply altering our phrasing just a little bit, we can bring it into that major pentatonic and kind of match the sound that the band is providing for us to solo or improvise over. Okay, so that's the first riff, and hopefully this is starting to make sense. We'll keep talking through it. The second riff is this. All right, so again, that's over the A minor chord, and we're ending this is an A note. Going back to the importance of knowing the names of these notes, right? So, and again, that's squarely in the pentatonic box of, if we were talking C major pentatonic, that would be position 2 because it starts on the second note of the C major pentatonic scale. If we're numbering it based on minor pentatonic, that would be the third note of the scale we're starting on. So that's going to be position 3. Oh, sorry. And so we just kind of made that riff right around that scale. So let's learn it. We're on the 9th fret of G here. We're going to slide right up to 12. And then we're going to, just like we did in that last riff, go back and forth with clucking this 10th fret of B. And go back and forth once like that. And then 13th fret of B, pull off. And then again on the 13th. So far we've got, now we're going to bend up like this, like we said, 13th fret of B. And then cluck that 10th fret of high E. Then we've got 12th fret of E, pull off. And then 13th fret of B again with the bend, cut it off, and you can cluck that 10th fret of B. So we've got 2, 3, 4. Or you can pick or cluck that last one, whatever you'd like. One more time, 2, 3, 4. All right, and just like that last riff, when the band's playing a C major instead of an A minor, we're going to change our phrasing just a little bit, and we're going to land on a C note. 13th fret of B, that's a C note. Right? So if we end there instead of the A minor, that's going to help us to match the musical bed that the band is providing, the context that the band is providing. Okay, so we're going to go like this. Instead of dropping to that 10th fret of B, we're just going to land right on that 13th fret. And again, we're playing the same notes, right? Because A minor pentatonic and C major pentatonic share the exact same notes. What matters when we're trying to determine if we're playing a minor or a major pentatonic is our phrasing. Not only that, but also the context of what the band is playing underneath of us, or the track is playing underneath of us. So in this case, the track's playing a major chord. We're going to try and play major pentatonic and phrase it to where it sounds like the major pentatonic. All right, last one. Final riff is this. All right, so I'm going to start with my middle finger here, slide up from 12 to 14 on G, then back and forth between 13 of B and 14 of G. Then we're going 15th fret of B, pull it off. Bend, pinkies on the 15th of high E, then a quick bend down, pull off, and then over to the 14th fret of G, and then a quick hammer on from 12 to 14 on the G string. That's over the A minor. Again, this is right, oops, sorry. Right in this position. If we're thinking C major, that would be position 3 pentatonic. If you learned the numbering based on the minor, that would be position 4. So the riff is. All right, and just like the other ones, instead of doing this to end, if the band's playing a major one, we're going to make this a major pentatonic feel by ending on the root of that major chord, the C. So we've got. All right, so that's all the riffs. I'm going to play through them one more time here with the track, and then I'm just going to let the track go a couple times, and that way you can practice these just with the track without me playing over it. And then we're going to dive into some of the discussion on the numbering of the positions and if that matters, and why different people teach it differently. Okay, so here we go. Let's play these riffs a few times. All right, now you play them. All right, we're going to keep drilling down on the difference between the major and the minor pentatonic scale, ultimately getting to the numbering of those pentatonic box shapes. I know that can be a source of confusion because there's so many different ways that they're taught. So I'm going to start by making a statement, then we're going to spend some time dissecting that. And the statement is this: the notes that make up a major pentatonic scale are always the same as the notes that make up that key's relative minors pentatonic scale. So for example, the key of C, that's the key of C major pentatonic. In the key of C, the relative minor is A minor. All right, we can always find that by going down 3 half steps, 1, 2, 3. So that's an A note. So in the key of C, the relative minor is A minor. So A minor pentatonic. What that statement is saying is that the notes that make up the C major pentatonic and the A minor pentatonic scales are the exact same notes. So let's look at it, okay? A minor pentatonic and C major pentatonic. All right, a C major pentatonic scale is C's, D's, E's, G's, and A's. And then we're back to C, and that pattern repeats. That's the C major pentatonic scale. A minor pentatonic, that's A, C, D, E, G, and then we're back to A. And that continues, and that's the A minor pentatonic scale. So, like I just said, they share the exact same notes. We can also play the C major pentatonic scale here. This is a C, D, E, G, A, C, D, E, G, A, C. C, D, E, G, A, C. Right? So they share the same notes, and the reason is because of the relative minor relationship. The only thing that makes this a C major scale instead of an A minor pentatonic scale is that we're starting and ending on a C. And this is going to get us back into that context and phrasing that we're going to talk about in just a minute here for the real world application of using these scales to solo. The only thing that makes this any different, and something that we call and separate with a name and call it the A minor pentatonic scale, is that we're starting on an A note and ending on an A note. So it's the exact same notes, but what we call it is relative to where we started, right? So C, that's C major pentatonic. This is A minor pentatonic, even though we're playing the same notes. And that works for every major key and its relative minor. Let's look at G, okay? Key of G, pentatonic. What's the relative minor? E minor. down 3, that's an E note. The relative minor for the key of G is E minor. Well, another way of playing G major pentatonic, we share the exact same notes, right? The only reason this is G major pentatonic is because we're starting on a G and ending on a G. And this is E minor pentatonic because we're starting on an E and ending on an E. Why do we do that? Why do we take the same notes and call it something different? And that's because, again, going back to the context, what the band's playing and how we're phrasing things, centering more on, let's go back to A minor, okay? Centering on this A for A minor pentatonic instead of the C for C major pentatonic, it sounds differently and it gives what we're playing a different feel. So that's the reason it's important. So again, going back to that real world context, if the band's playing, we can use these exact same notes, but if we're, centering our phrasing more around this A than the C, it's going to sound a little different. Again, that's an A note, right? That kind of feels like home base. That feels like tonic, where we want to end up. Same thing with the C. And so if we wanted to play C major pentatonic here, that feels like home base, right? That feels like tonic. That's a C note. So that is ultimately, in the real world, the difference between playing a major pentatonic and a minor pentatonic. Even though we're using the same notes, it's how we're phrasing our riffs in the context of what the band's playing. If the band's playing in C major or if they're playing in A minor. Okay, so now that we've established that C major pentatonic and its relative minor, A minor pentatonic, share the exact same notes, let's talk about the numbering of these pentatonic box shapes. That can cause some confusion. When I was taking lessons as a kid, I learned this as position 1 of the pentatonic scale, which is correct. Position 1 of the pentatonic scale, major pentatonic, C major. Then this was position 2, so on and so forth. Position 3, position 4, position 5. That always made crystal clear sense to me because the first scale degree, the first note in the C major pentatonic is C, and we start position 1 on a C note. We start position 2 on the second note of the scale, a D note. We start position 3 on the third note of the scale, an E note. We start position 4 on the fourth note of the C pentatonic scale, which is a G note. And we start position 5 on the fifth note, in A minor. Oh, sorry, not in A minor, in A note. We start position 5 there, and that's the fifth note in the C major pentatonic scale. A lot of people learn this as position 1. And guess what, guys? They're both right. This is position 1 of A minor pentatonic. And it makes sense for the exact same reason. In A minor pentatonic, an A note is the first note of that scale. A minor pentatonic, remember, has the same notes as C major pentatonic, but we start on an A, this is an A, and we end on an A. And we can do that same naming system, the numbering system, up the neck. The second note of A minor pentatonic is a C note, so this could be position 2. The third note is going to be a D, this could be position 3. The fourth note is an E, so we've got position 4. And the fifth note is a G, so we've got position 5. Another reason I think people look at this as position 1 is because, keep in mind, a blues trick is that we can take whatever blues key we're playing in, if it's A blues, all right, we can take whatever blues key, in that case A blues, and play the minor pentatonic. So if this is position 1, it just makes it easy, right? If we're in A blues, we start here with position 1, and there's our skate over the top blues key. If we're in D, we can just find that starting D note and play position 1, if that's how you were taught thinking of it. Me, I never thought about it like that. I had some other mental tricks. I just always thought about starting on position 5, you know, but it just depends on how you were taught. And again, ultimately doesn't matter, but I do think that is one reason that people teach it like that, with the numbering starting here, because it just makes it really easy when you're starting out to find your blues key for skating over the top with blues soloing. The reason it's kind of confusing is because you get one teacher saying, all right, let's go and let's play position 5 pentatonic, and they go. Then you got another teacher that says, all right, position 1 pentatonic, and they go. And so I can understand why that's confusing, but I would encourage you not to let it be confusing. When I'm soloing, these for me have become mental shortcuts. If I go, okay, we're jamming in the key of C, I like that position 5 shape, so I'm just going to kind of improvise. It's just a shortcut for me to get to a comfortable place on the neck fast. If I want a position 3, I always think of this as position 3. But that's just me. That's how I learned it, and it's not wrong. Just like it wouldn't be wrong if you said, I'm going to start wailing away here, and I'm going to go to position 1, and you started at this same spot. You're just thinking of it in terms of the minor pentatonic, and I'm thinking of it in terms of the major pentatonic. And there's no real practical reason for you to be able to think of both. Say, I'm going to play position 1 and 5, and go here. No, whatever is easier for you mentally, it's fine to think of it like that and use it as a mental shortcut to get where you want to go on the guitar neck. Because remember, we're talking about the same notes. These box shapes are kind of guitar speak. We did these box shapes, whoever came up with them back in the day, came up with them so that we could have a nice way to lay our fingers out and get these notes quickly. It's kind of guitar speak, but the reason it works is because what makes the scale is not the box shape, it's the notes, right? So what I'd encourage you to do is not think of the box shape necessarily as being different between A minor pentatonic and C major pentatonic. These are both ways to play. Playing this box shape is a way to play both the C major pentatonic and the A minor pentatonic. What's going to separate it, if the band's playing, context, if the band's playing a minor progression, A minor progression, we can play this same box shape, but we're going to center our phrasing in a more minor way, kind of focusing on some of these notes that bring out the minor, the A. Right? If the band's playing a major progression, we can use the same box shape. You can think of it as position 1, position 5. It doesn't really matter. What makes it C major pentatonic is that we're playing the C major pentatonic notes and we're phrasing it in a way that it sounds major. So again, to wrap it up here, whether you learn this as position 1 or position 5, that's okay. They're both right. Whatever is the most helpful for you as a mental shortcut, just use it to get your fingers where they need to go. And then just remember to think about your phrasing in context of what the band's playing, and that's really going to get you into playing either the major or the minor pentatonic appropriately. Alright, this is kind of the culmination of our discussion on major versus minor pentatonic. So we're going to get our fingers on this riff and play it over a C chord, an A minor chord, and then an A7 chord for a blues chord, and talk about the different context that gives us each time, and then also just subtle differences in the phrasing that we're going to use to make it appropriate or more appropriate for each chord. Okay, so the first time we play the riff is over just a C major bar chord. All right, and we're ending on a C note. So this is, like we were talking about in the discussion, we're adjusting our phrasing a little bit here at the end of the riff to center it around this chord that's being played, the C chord. We could end it on this A minor, that would give it some color, but that's not what we're going for in this situation. We're playing over the C major chord, and we want to end, in this case, on this C note. So once we learn this first riff, the rest of them are going to be a piece of cake because we're just making really subtle changes. So let's learn it here. It looks like this. All right, so one step at a time. The first part of the riff looks like this. All right, so 7 to 9 on the G string. And then we're going to cluck this 8th fret of B. Then mute the 9th fret of G. We're going to strike that with our pick with a mute. And then 10th fret of B, pull off to 8. And then back to the 9th fret of G, and another cluck on the 8th fret of B. All right, continuing on. All right, so we just slid down from 9 to 7 on G, pull off to 5, and then this is kind of a mute, but you can, if you make a little contact there, it's okay, but this is kind of where that chicken picking sounds come in. We're going, and then we're rolling that back, and we're hitting the 7th fret of the G string, and then a little vibrato real quick on that 5th fret of G. So far we have this. All right, to finish the riff, we do this. So the whole thing. All right, so we just got this much already. Now we're going to do this. All right, so we're here. We've got 7th fret of the D string. Pull off to 5, then 7 of A, then cluck that 5th fret of D, and then I'll quick slide from 7 to 5 on A, pull off to 3, and then 5th fret of the low E string, and then 3rd fret of A to end. All right, let's go nice and slow. 2, 3, go. All right, a little faster. 1, 2, 3, go. A little faster yet. 1, 2, 3, go. All right, so use the tools at sixstringcountry.com. It's tabbed out right beneath the video player. You can also slow down the video and watch it at half speed or 75%. Get that riff under your fingers really well. That's what we're going to be using for the rest of this tutorial. And note that this is all in C pentatonic. We're using a lot of the shape. If we're talking about C major pentatonic, we'd call that position 5, right? And then we're sliding up here, which would be, position 1 in C major pentatonic. Then we're even using position 4, right, in C major pentatonic, if we're numbering it according to the major pentatonic scale. And because the context of our C major chord, we did the phrasing to where we ended on a C note. And that's what gave it that appropriate feel over top of the C major chord. Now when the band switches to A minor, as we talked about, the relative minor of the key of C is A minor. So what that means, like we talked about, is that they share the same notes. So to really emphasize the fact that we're now playing a minor scale, or we're using the minor pentatonic, we're going to change the phrasing just a little bit, and at the end, instead of ending on this note, which would still be in the scale, we're going to end on the root of that minor chord. And so we'll play this. We're just, instead of that last time going back here, we're going to stay right there. And that subtle change gives it a minor feel, right? It feels really appropriate to play that over top of an A minor chord. So you could argue that even though we're playing exactly the same notes except for one note at the very end, We just switched from major pentatonic to minor pentatonic, and that's all due to the context and the phrasing of what we played. And we did that by changing our phrasing by one little note. And then we get to the A7 chord, and here's where we get a little bit more advanced in our phrasing discussion. The context has changed a lot here. It's no longer the relative minor. We're playing blues now, but we know that if we want to play A blues, we can use the A minor pentatonic. That's one scale that we can use to kind of skate over the top. However, if we're going to do this country chicken picking style, we're gonna add, in this case, we're gonna add in a couple little color notes. That's gonna be using mode mixture and then a chromatic walk down to really give it that country blues chicken picking flavor that we're going for. But most of the notes we're still mainly using that A minor pentatonic, but we're just gonna alter our phrasing just a little bit to give it that blues flair. So what we do, that's all the same so far, right? But now instead of just going like this, we're going to do this. So there's the mode mixture. What we're doing is we're adding in a piece of the A major pentatonic scale, right? Along with the minor pentatonic. So this is just one little piece of mode mixture, and it's that major third on the A chord. It's that C sharp. That's a really important note for this style of playing. Right? It's all that note and this note kind of going back and forth. It's that minor third to the major third. All right, so that was the first thing we did to alter it. We just hammer that on, and we'll also make a couple subtle changes to the second half of the riff. It will look like this. All right, going so fast, we're probably not going to be able to do any chicken picking in there. If you're going slow, you could do. But we're probably going to need to get that all with our pick. A lot of pull-offs here. We got 7 on the D string, down to 5. And then I'd upstroke this, pull off to 6, 5, downstroke on the 5th fret of low E, upstroke on the 3rd fret of A, hammer on to 4, and then back to that 5th fret of low E. And again, sound familiar? It's that minor third of the A chord to the major third of the A chord. So one more time on that blues. So going back to our discussion earlier, it all comes down to the context and the phrasing. We're essentially playing the same notes through all those, right? But they sound different if we're playing it over a C major, over an A minor, or over an A7. And that all comes down to adjusting our phrasing just a little bit and being intentional about that as we're soloing and as we're improvising and trying to make this as musical as we can. So let's turn on the track again. That kind of going to cycle through the C major, the A minor, and the A7 chord, and we'll just play through these riffs just a number of times the way we just learned them.